Are you ready to get your feet wet? Because this is the Knowledge Pool, hosted by Gathering Information. We're here to bring you a casual conversation between friends about everything to do with collecting, trading, and playing Magic the Gathering.
I am Tams.
I am Step.
And I am Laura.
So put on your bathing suits and dive right into the Knowledge Pool.
Hello and welcome to episode number 14 of the Knowledge Pool.
Way to jump in.
Whoa. Back up. Laura, is that you?
Well, look, I knew you were revving up for it, so I felt I could steal the spotlight.
I love the
Fair
preemptive
enough.
strike. That was amazing. And completely unexpected.
Hi, Laura.
Hello.
You know, actually, I've been meaning to ask you.
Yes.
We have for the blog where we do, or the website where we do, articles and stuff.
Yes.
We have authors associated with each of the us, basically.
Yes.
Are you cool with Laura, or would you prefer Captain Laura the Stupendous, or Her Ladyship Laura of Lorington?
Of Lorington? That presumes way too much care about the lore of magic, I feel, for me to be comfortable.
Fair enough. Because, I am Step, but I'm generally dull and carry more flair in my words than my personal presence.
Are you trying to say something about my writing?
No. This
Wow.
went downhill quickly.
Moving right along. So, news in Magic this week, Laura. Take it away.
Well, yeah, unfortunately for Step, there's not too much exciting news going on to save him from putting his ginormous foot right down his throat. Yeah, so there were a few commander cards from the new commander set, alleged cards, I should say, that have been leaked on the internet by some guy on Tumblr who changed his Tumblr name to closely resemble that of an actual Magic podcast.
That seems real sketchy.
And then he posted it. And then, for some reason, that made people upset, so he then privated all of his stuff.
Really?
Yeah. So, I'll be honest, I purposely did not look at the cards. I acknowledge that there is a leak and that it seems like it's probably legit. There have certainly been a lot of correlations to who we now know as the lead artist on the set and things like that. But part of the excitement for me about this kind of stuff is just not knowing until right before the set comes out. Like, I'm not the person who goes looking for Christmas presents and then finding out what they are the week before Christmas.
Mm-hmm. And we are not the podcast for looking for clicks or listens
based on that.
Based on this kind of stuff.
So,
I don't believe in leaks stuff.
Yeah, I'm right there with you as far as leaks go. Like, I don't like them.
Mm-hmm.
I love spoiler season. I love revving up to a new set, and I love the Commander product so far.
Yeah.
So, but I did look because I also can't stand not having information if other people already have it.
Sure.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, I mean, they do look legit if that's your thing, but we're definitely going to talk about the Commander product when it comes out,
Right.
because I'm going to buy them.
Or when Wizards chooses to spoil certain things legitimately.
But on the other hand, we certainly acknowledge the fact that the information is out there. So if that is something that you're interested in pursuing, they're pretty easily available on things like Reddit and on some of the major Magic content providers. So that's that. The other quasi-news, just in that it's so surprising that it's news, is just that there have been a couple of high-profile modern tournaments over the last week or so, GPs and stuff like that. And the interesting thing was that almost all three of the top 8s had completely unique deck lists.
Yeah,
Whoa.
like 8 separate decks in the top 8.
For 2 of them, and then the third had 7 different decks in the top 8.
That's extraordinary.
Seems abnormal.
Yeah, well, when Dredge was at its point, it would have been 8 Dredge decks.
Yeah.
And when Death Shadow was, it's still pretty predominant, but when it was, back when it was still kind of a new and sudden thing, it was a lot of that. And so...
And even in, like, a healthy standard, you expect to see 2 of one deck, 2 of another deck, and then maybe a couple of other decks in there.
Yeah, so it seems really promising after, the bans and stuff like that in Modern, that it seems to be settling somewhere interesting and fun and diverse. Yeah,
diversity helps a great deal. I mean, Magic players love brewing, even if you don't like to brew yourself, you always like checking out this sweet brew, and if some of those are viable, that sounds amazing. I'm far more likely to get involved in a format like Modern if I know that there's room to
well, that's exactly
brew.
it. Like, if as long as there's not one or two oppressively top decks, like, if when that happens, like in Standard and stuff like that previously, you're like, well, I could brew this deck, but why bother? I'm just going to lose to Copycat. Or I'm just going to lose to X.
And I mean, in Standard, I can sort of try to gun for one of those decks and build a deck that's completely around taking that out. But in Modern, you kind of think, well, if that existed, somebody else would have done it already.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, financially, you could theoretically build that Standard deck that everybody's playing, but it's so much more expensive when you start talking about Modern.
Yeah, unless you're trying to go monocolor and you're cheaping out on lands even then.
Yeah, you kind of add a 0 onto the end of a Standard deck and you get a Modern deck.
Basically. And that's if you're going cheap.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think this is good news.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like everyone is still very much enjoying the format as well, with all the changes and things like that. So it's certainly good to see. I hope it continues that way.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if it does, it's making me interested. You know, so.
As for Modern is a format, but like formats of play, were they all just single, like 1v1 tournaments? Do you know?
Yes. However, they did have, I think it was 2 weeks ago that I think SCG had their second like combined constructed format.
That still sounds super awesome to me.
I know. So they had 3 players. Each player on a team was playing a different deck in a different format. So one was Standard, one was Modern, one was presumably
so cool.
Legacy. And yeah, still sounds really fun. Like if you just have friends who have diverse interests and you can decide who's playing which format, it seems like a really good way to kind of balance things. Like, there's a lot of strategy involved in deciding who's going to bring which deck.
Yeah. And it seems a lot more interesting to watch too.
Absolutely.
So I think they should look at doing more stuff like that, because that just sounds
and it's
really
very popular, because if someone said to you, hey, would you like to come to a Magic tournament all by yourself, it's Standard, bring a Standard deck, or somebody said, hey, how about you come to a Magic event with 2 of your good friends, and you have your choice of 3 different constructed formats, which do you like best?
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of the stories I've heard about the old invitationals, where you just, like, the random formats, like identical sealed, where everyone in the tournament gets the same sealed pool. Or,
really?
You've never heard of that? Yeah.
No.
That
so
sounds
exactly
neat.
the same sealed pool.
That is so interesting.
And everyone knows that they have the same sealed pool.
I mean, not only do you then have to build the deck, and everyone's probably going to build slightly different decks, but then you also have to strategize about what would beat your deck, because that's probably what you should be building.
Yeah.
But then you also need to combine some things that will counteract that strategy, because some of the other people will be running that deck.
Yeah, sounds sweet, right?
Yeah. It sounds super strategy intensive again. And
then, I mean, there's all sorts of weird formats from those invitationals, like...
I remember they used to do Cube.
Yeah, they did Cube. They did there was one where they had 26 decks, each based on a letter of the alphabet, and each card in the deck was started with that letter. And then the players...
Boy, would I not want to be Zed.
The players drafted the decks.
Wow.
So you draft or auctioned the decks. They auctioned their starting life total and cards in hand for the deck that they wanted.
That's interesting. Again, very strategy.
Right? Like, random crazy formats like that. And, of course, that's over the top. But having a combined Standard or a combined constructed format has that same sort of feel.
Yeah, for sure.
And sounds super sweet.
Well, plus it's just a change.
Yeah.
From the regular format of a GP.
Yeah.
What I find super interesting is just Magic in general. How many other games are there out there that has such a diverse way of playing it? I mean, sure, poker, there are different ways to play poker, but Magic, there are entirely different formats and styles, and it's just really cool. Imagination seems to be the only thing that determines...
Yeah, well, I mean, when Magic started, it was less of a game than a collectible. Like, it was a collectible thing that you were supposed to play with.
Yes.
But the rules were a suggestion, and however you wanted to play with those cards was perfectly okay.
And to be honest, it's kind of still how Kitchen Table works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because who's going to bother going to Gatherer to read errata or to find out the exact rules and interactions of a casual commander or casual, standard deck or whatever?
I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but when I first started playing again, we had my old collection from when I was in, elementary school and my friend's old collection, and we didn't understand anything about turns or the stack or anything like that. So when Wall of Water said it gets +1/+0, we didn't know that meant till end of turn.
Okay.
So I just kept pumping blue mana into it and made it like a 23/5 or whatever it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which couldn't attack, but whatever.
I think it was very neat of Wizards that they had like a call us and you'll get a judge line. They still have it.
Yeah.
Like, you can just still call in if you have a rules interaction question and get a judge or something like that.
That's
but,
really smart.
I assume it was used a lot more back when the internet was a bit less used.
I imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they still get calls. Mostly about how to deal with X spells, I hear. But yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
With a game this complex.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's pretty much it for news.
Okay.
So I guess...
Although speaking of GPs, there is one that we're going to be talking about, later. Because
shortly,
we're
yes.
planning on going to it.
There is a GP coming up in Toronto in July.
That's something to look forward to in the next few episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
And we actually need to sign up for that. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, we need to do that. So, I guess we move on to what we've been up to. Now, you two both are posting your league reports online, right?
Yep. I just posted mine on Tuesday, and yours is going up tomorrow.
And how is it going overall?
How are you doing, Tams?
Well, you switched your deck up, didn't you? Are you liking the new deck more?
I would if it would cooperate with me. I have been having serious mana issues, and I'm not sure what to do about it, because I seem not to get my land when I need it, or the right color, but it's not my splash that I'm concerned about. So is it just bad luck? Like, I don't know. I am going to pull the whole thing apart and look at it again, but I'm not doing too well.
Right.
I do love the deck, though, so whatever. We'll see.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, so I'm plugging along with the same deck, still doing quite well.
Good.
I really feel, though, as though I'm going to start falling behind a little bit, just because some of the other people in the league are really focusing on the synergies. And in this set, there are, you can really do a synergy-focused deck if that's what you're trying to do. So I'm still winning games, and I'm still winning matches, even against these synergy-based decks, but I just feel as though they're improving more than I am.
You're losing edge?
Yeah. So I'm thinking about... I opened a couple of very, very nice cards. I finally got a trial in the pack that I just opened to go with my 4 cartouches. So, and I've also got one of the hippos, the 3-drop that puts counters on stuff, which plays into the counter synergy that I'm not really focused on, but probably should be focused more on.
Okay.
So I'm gonna see if I can lead myself in that direction to continue succeeding.
Sounds good.
But I'm not super worried about it. I feel like as long as I even finish like the next 3 weeks 2-2 or whatever, I'm probably gonna top 8. So
okay. I am not in that position, but I feel like if I get my deck figured out, it's got enough power.
Oh,
in it.
yeah, you've got a lot of like really good late game engine type of cards.
Yeah, so I should be winning more games than I am, just in the air, right? but I'm going to figure that out, and then hopefully I'll be able to join you. So, Tams.
Yeah, tell us about your deck.
My deck's pretty sweet. I had some incredibly satisfying matches this week. I played Garrett, who has a really gross deck. He has a lot of really good gold cards, and we went 1-1, and then the third game was just one of those things. Whoever top decks, whoever gets their thing there is going to win, and he just edged me out. But it was one of those things you don't feel bad about because they were such fun games. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have this week I added a second black trial. So now I'm running 2 black trials, 2 red cartouche.
Gross.
That sounds awful.
It's pretty good. At one point, I sided out one of the trials for a second of the, and I don't know
Splendid Agony.
Thank you. I can never remember the name. Splendid Agony against a cat deck because I wanted to be able to knock off. I could get rid of the big cat and knock the little cats down to 1/1s, and then I could use that to
pick them off.
Pick them off. It's a lot better than dropping a trial and letting them go, oh, I'll just get rid of my token. Sure. Or
I have several times now used Splendid Agony to shrink 2 things to my advantage. And it feels pretty good.
Yeah, well, if you can like get a 2 for 1, 2 for nothing in combat or something like that.
It's really good. I am still enjoying the demon that I'm running. He's really sweet. I threw in a cycle land for a little more cycle synergy. I'm going to be looking to trade for probably 2 more cards with cycling on it.
Is it on color for you, or are you running half color?
Half color. It's a blue-black, and I'm running red-black.
Right.
So it's fine. I would prefer it to be red-black, but whatever. I haven't had any mana issues so far. I also threw in this week the one that you can pay 4 sack and get a 2/2. The land.
Oh, the land,
The desert. Curse.
Yeah.
I just threw it in because my mana base is good and I've had 0 problems with mana other than your every once in a while needing to mulligan.
Okay.
And it saved me in 2 games this week because I had it down and my opponent is not thinking land can do a thing, and then I'm like, tap 4, here's my creature block.
Yeah, you know, every time I've actually seen that on the field, and it's never been... I've never played it.
Yeah.
Every time I've ever seen it actually get sacrificed, it has been good. But that is the... not the majority of
I've never used it, so I thought, you know what? Now's the time while I'm doing fine, and it's just a fun league. I want to try it out, see what it's like.
Yeah. I think that the -1/-1 counter one is also playable.
Yeah.
If you're in 2 colors, especially if you're in a counters deck.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Like if you have a Hapatra or something and you're like, put a counter on your dude, get a snake.
Yeah.
At instant speed by sacking a land once you're up to 6 or 7.
Yeah, that seems decent.
Yeah. So for me, I guess at the end of the day, I'm running, I think 11, when you talk about the reusability, 11 pieces of removal, not including the mummy and the scorpion. Scorpion? Yes.
The one that gets counters and then
No. The death touch.
Oh, the
death touch.
3 mana 2/2.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. It's like god dot removal dot deck.
Nice.
So if I curve out, it's great. So I have 1 match to do, which I'll do tomorrow before FM, and then we'll see how it goes. I'm in top 8, so I'm happy.
Because I was 0-3 this week, spoilers, and decided I had enough. Especially when I had 2 really good games and then a frustrating loss.
Sure.
And then another frustrating loss where I just didn't draw my second color in either game. You know? And it's like, these are... But hopefully Friday will bring me a renewed enthusiasm.
In other Magic news, we'll just plug this now while we think of it. For gathering information this week, we drafted a new league type that we haven't drafted before.
Oh, yeah, the new format on MitGo. I don't know when it showed up. It must be just
a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
A week or 2.
They are single game draft leagues where you get up to 10 matches one game apiece. So drafting in that arena is a little bit interesting because you know that you're not going to be able to sideboard while you're drafting, and it makes you choose slightly differently.
And you get to go until you have 7 wins or 3 losses?
Or 4 losses.
4 losses?
Yeah. So, once you get 4 losses, you're out. Or once you get 7 wins, you win back your entry fee in play points, basically. And you get to keep the cards on top of that. So it's like you could free roll it if you win 7 in a row. It's interesting. It's sort of like cookies, you know? It's not something that I would want for every meal, but we had a
ton of fun. We got to play a lot of Magic. So.
Yeah, and even though I am a dummy and forgot entirely that the cartouche of Fervor? Yes.
Sure.
The red cartouche gives haste. We still had a pretty good time. So, you should go and check that out.
Yeah.
So what else have we been doing, aside from League?
We had people over to draft on the weekend.
Yeah. My Theros block cube. Well, I guess our Theros block cube.
Yes.
Happy birthday to you.
Has seen some more play. We had new friends who have just recently been introduced to Magic. I don't remember if we talked about this at all, but
no.
So we decided the best way to get them interested in draft, which is of course the best format, is to get them to do it for free. So I had previously built some decks and taken them over and taught them how to play, and one of them is playing like Magic 2015.
Okay.
And the other is a programmer, so went and read the old Magic rule book.
Yes. Back when Mana was still a thing.
Yeah, that was a cute story. She was playing against somebody, and she was trying to set things up a certain way. And what she was trying to do was set it up so that the player overpaid his mana so that he would get mana burned. And we kind of went, oh.
It's one of those really weird things because she understood enough about the stack to know how it could work, but not enough to know that like you can't respond to mana abilities, and so the land would already be tapped for 1 instead of 2. It was the
flash enchantment. Yeah, Karametra's
whatever
bounty favorite
edict
something
or dictate of Karametra.
Yeah, it was cute though.
So then basically he got to play just everything from his deck.
Well, no. She waited then until his end step because I mentioned he was a very good sport, and since half the point of the evening was just teach them more about Magic, he was fine just letting me give her a bit of advice. So she just waited until his end step, and then she played it so that she got the first advantage, which is of course the correct way to use this.
Yeah.
But yeah, he then dumped his hand.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that somebody knew. We don't think to say make sure you get the most recent rules because we're like mana burn. Like, I mean, we know what it is, but I think Evan was looking at it like.
Had he never heard of that?
I'm sure he has, but
it's one of those things that it's funny too because they took out mana burn specifically so that new players wouldn't have to worry about it.
Right.
It's a needless complication. Basically, is their thoughts on the matter.
Yeah. And
so she was reading through these old rules and fell in love with the gotcha kind of nature of some of the rules, but they still had fun. And we had a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, so we did 2 different formats even of Cube.
So we started by just handing out 6 cube packs and doing a sealed.
Yeah, so there were 6 of us.
Yes.
Rather than a full 8.
Yeah, we couldn't get our 8 together, but we got 6. So it was the 3 of us, a friend, and the 2 newbies. You all right there, Tams?
I'm sneezing.
Hold on.
It's.
So with 6-pack, like with regular sealed, the 4 of us were done basically in
20 minutes
or whatever, like
20 after getting lands and
and
building
all
our
shuffled
second
up.
decks and
It's true.
Right. And the 2 new players were still like, oh, I don't know what colors I like. And at that point I realized, maybe it would have been better just to draft first.
Yeah.
Maybe give them more of an idea.
Less decisions all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think about that because I think of draft as the more complex format. But
the choice is one card. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one card at a time rather than looking at this whole big pool of stuff.
Yeah.
So if I had that to do again, I'd probably have done the draft first.
Sure.
And then gone on to maybe do a sealed if we had time and wanted to.
Yeah.
But we got there, and they figured out some things that they liked based on what they had already seen in the decks that I built. And yeah, it was fun.
It was fun. So what did you guys end up drafting?
During the draft...
Or in the sealed, sorry.
In the sealed? I don't remember. I had gods. I know that.
I was Simic. I had a kind of poopy pool, but I just had a lot of good stuff in like my 6-drop slot and not a lot of anything and it was all spread out. But I wound up going blue-green, and it was fun. My deck was okay. I had enough stuff there, just enough playables, and I had the blue-green god. No, must have been Planeswalker. Was it a god?
Kiora.
Of course.
Kiora?
Of course it was Kiora.
It was Kiora. I played her.
There is a blue-green god. Oh, no, you had both.
Yeah.
That's right. You had Krufix and Kiora in your pool.
And I never saw Krufix.
Well, he's...
I don't think I did.
He's shy.
Yeah, so it was fun. I enjoyed it.
I remember I had Aetherios. And,
Oh, yes, you did.
And not Erebos, not Heliod.
You had the
I
Whip
a
of
second
Erebos.
god. I had the Whip of Erebos. And I thought I had a second god in there, but it was Abzan. I played black, white, green.
Mm-hmm.
And...
Did you have Karametra?
No, somebody else had
Oh, yeah, okay.
Um,
I remembered seeing one at the table.
Who was the black-green god? Farika?
Yeah.
Farika.
I didn't
You,
have Farika.
I had Farika.
You had Farika. Anyway, there were gods, like, everywhere. Which, it's interesting. A cube, block cube is like half rares.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are almost as many rares as commons, and there's like a third commons, a third uncommons, a third rares and mythics in the set. It's just you see the commons more when there are 10 of them in a booster and one rare. But when you're doing a block cube and it's one of each card, it's like a cube experience because half of the cards are rares.
That's why it's so fun. And that's why Theros is so good for it.
Yeah, because a lot of the rares are very playable.
Yeah.
Even, in limited, at least, which is what this is approximating.
Yes.
So, I had a lot of fun just building. I picked, based on my lands and my multicolored cards, the thing that I wanted to build, and then just went there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. I had constellation stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I had no lands at all.
I had all of the lands.
Yeah,
one.
Somebody had like a bajillion
so
lands.
I had 5 temples.
Yeah.
I had what's the Painland? Mana Confluence.
Yeah.
And I had the Forbidden Shores with the
Unknown Shores.
Unknown Shores.
Yeah.
So I had all of those, and then I ended up going 2 colors and not playing any of them.
Well,
I think I might have played one on-color temple. Or a half-color temple. I don't even remember. But yeah, so I ended up going green, as all of us did, but I was green-white. I built a fairly aggressive deck. I had a lot of low drops. I had a fair amount of devotion, but I also had some heroic synergies going on, specifically in white. And I had a couple of the nice enchantments that went with it. I had a lot of bestow creatures. So that was mostly my top end was bestow creatures because, when you cast them for 7 or 8 or something like that.
That's the other awesome thing about Theros.
Yeah. So when assembled by creatures, my curve was quite low. I think I topped out at about 5.
Sure.
But
yeah, you crushed me.
I did.
In the draft. I crushed her in the sealed, but yeah.
Other way around.
Okay, so it was
You
the
crushed
other-
me in draft,
draft?
and I crushed you in sealed.
Fair enough.
I was undefeated in sealed.
Yeah.
My deck carried me to victory-ish. We only did 2 rounds. But yeah, so the deck turned out quite nice. It just curved out, which is kind of what you want in sealed. It was a beat-down, curve-out deck. I had not very much removal, but I didn't really need it.
Yeah.
I had a couple of, like, the flash enchantment, so surprise kind of removal.
Yeah, those are
Fine.
count
Yeah.
as removal, kind of.
Yeah, so I didn't have anything, like, exceptional. I wasn't running any gods. I don't think I ran any mythics at all. I had, like, a couple of rares, but
Okay.
it was just your basic green-white beatdowns.
Well, if you had all of the lands, I mean,
I
those
did
are,
have all of the lands.
those are rares, so...
No.
That's true.
And I had sort of rarity sorted the packs at that point.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to put 1 mythic in each pack and then like 3 rares and then 4 uncommons and the rest commons, I think was how it ended up working out. But that's another thing that I'm not going to do in future, because when you have 1 mythic in, say, Theros in each of the packs, that means that you have 1 god in half the packs or whatever.
That's
You know,
true.
like, if you have to make the choice between a planeswalker and a god in the same pack,
That's interesting.
that makes it a little more, interesting for a draft. So I'm just going to shuffle up the cube from now on and just sort it out by 15 cards at a time.
So here's the most important question out of the whole evening was, did they enjoy it? Did it like spark their desire to play more Magic?
I don't know. I think they enjoyed themselves, but were a little overwhelmed. However, they have been playing consistently since. Like,
Right.
I keep getting questions thrown at me about things, and that makes me happy because it means they're engaged on their own.
Sure. And I have to say, maybe one of the things that made it a bit nicer during the draft portion, there were 4 experienced drafters and then the 2 new players. All 4 of us took our first pick and forced it,
Yep.
Yeah.
which is not the correct way to draft.
Absolutely
No,
not.
but screw it.
Yeah, exactly. So I first picked the Horizon Chimera, the 2 green-blue flash, flying,
of course you
trample. Whenever you draw a card, you gain a life card. And I was like, I'm doing Simic. I'm forcing it. I'm going card draw. I'm going flash. I'm going stuff.
Yup.
Going flyers. So then
And then Evan right next to you decided, what did he force?
he was blue-red.
Yeah, but he was blue-red spells. What
Spells,
was his
yeah.
first pick?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't even
it
remember.
was the god, Kyranos.
Oh, it was Karanos. Yeah.
Well, that's a simple one, yeah.
Yes.
And I'm going to have to post a picture, probably on our Twitter, of this deck, because it is the weirdest, goofiest, most interesting Theros block, like, draft deck that I've ever seen.
Well, it's funny because he quite likes red-blue in Theros because he's played the cube before and he has drafted red-blue before. Just it was more of a creature monstrous type of deck rather than the spells deck that he drafted this time.
This deck was about not dying before turn 4 and then putting in a 7 or an 8 drop.
Yes.
And Kraken, because that's the way that you win the game at that point.
Right.
Uh,
But
yeah.
You can defeat him with blue-green flyers because I did win in 3, I think. They were all very close games, so like within a couple of turns.
It's not unbeatable. It's just, it was very strong. And I don't have the bravery or the stupidity to draft a deck like that.
Well, enough for a fun draft where you're just going for it.
Yeah.
Like Kyranos
It was a
is
really
the
good
first
draft.
pick for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what did you guys end up forcing?
I ended up forcing red-black because I was hoping for Minotaurs, but then I got a Mogis, and that's the one that I had 2 gods in. I had the Mogis and Perforos.
The red one?
And just sort of value red-black aggro stuff, which was perfectly fine.
Yup, sounds good.
What'd you do?
She crushed me when we played is what she did.
Well, okay, so pack one, pick one. The one thing I said I wasn't going to do was
go mono black.
Was play black.
So she always plays black in Theros.
It's true.
Black is sweet in Theros.
So I opened my pack and oh my god, premium black removal. What am I gonna do?
Yeah, it was Heroes Downfall or something, wasn't
it might have been Heroes Downfall.
Yeah, it didn't make it to me.
Really?
Nope. And then Erebos came knocking at my door, but what I ended up doing was going heavy black with a lighter white companion kind of piece, where I put in a Heliod, which is a double white, granted, but
so you never worried about actually turning him on? He was just
no, not so much.
To make creatures,
he got turned on once.
Okay,
and that was fine. I think I had 8 possible white mana symbols in the deck.
So theoretically, you could turn them on.
Absolutely, and I had the Coinsmith, which
it's
I
fine.
I was running the right white anyway, so I'm like, sure. I went a little crazy with the removal, and then I'm like, creatures, crud. Okay, I guess I have to run some white. So, but yeah, it was super fun. I enjoyed it.
My surprise MVP was Thassa.
Okay.
Because I've played her before in Cube. Like, she's in most regular cubes as well.
Yeah.
And she's usually like a free scry on your upkeep. And basically that's what she was in this game as well. I did have enough blue to turn her on, but most of my creatures and permanents were green. I had a lot of more blue spell type of things.
Okay.
So I would basically just get up a board state and then make everything unblockable with Thassa and win the game.
Yeah, because that's what she can do.
Yeah, for like 6 mana, she makes... Because green has some huge creatures, especially if you can monstrous a couple of them. Like, I had the Nemesis Immortals and a Satyr Wayfinder, so I would just mill a couple of creatures, get my Nemesis out on the battlefield for 4, monstrous him for 6 or 7, and then I can make a bunch of stuff unblockable and then kill you with 3 creatures or so.
Yep, that sounds pretty gross.
So she was never once a creature for me, but she still won me like 3 games on her own single-handedly, so...
So I do want to say, going back to the sealed for a second, I was helping one of the new players, build her deck, and I was looking at the stuff that she wasn't running, and she had both. What's the Planeswalker's name? The blue-black Planeswalker.
Ashiok?
Yeah, Ashiok.
And Phoenix.
Oh.
And she was like, I don't like blue, I don't like black. And I'm like,
I would have gone all in on the mill plan.
That's okay. You don't have
I
to
won't
like
teach you about mill.
Because that was not the point.
No, of
the
course
point
not.
was to get them to enjoy themselves. But I was weeping looking at the blue and the black that she wasn't playing and just like, I could have.
Good.
Oh.
So this kind of segues nicely into the topic that we kind of want to go over today.
Yes.
Which is bringing new people to Magic.
Yeah,
Okay.
because this is surely not the first time that you guys have introduced new players to Magic, is
No,
it?
we infect as many people. I mean, introduce as many people as we
Yes.
can.
So far, I think this has been one of the most successful for me because I don't push hard. I introduce people to the game, and then it's honestly not some people's thing, and that's fine,
Sure.
right? But when you can see that they're gamers at heart, they have that spark.
Yes, because they both play D&D as well, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
So.
And any number of other board games. And I'm like, ho, 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 ho.
So, yeah, what did you do initially after they had expressed some interest in learning how to play?
Well, I started by letting them know that, like, when... These are fairly new friends, so... I trade schedules, and I'm like, and I'm at the card shop on Friday, and then on Sunday, and then, next Tuesday I'm going to play Magic, and they're like, okay, you spend a lot of time doing this thing, so what is it? And I'm like, well, I'm so glad you asked. And
Because I was going to tell you regardless, but this is just much simpler.
Yes, absolutely. So I usually start by trying to gauge their interest in different aspects. Like, if they're gamers, then I go from this is a strategy game point of view.
Sure.
And if they're avid readers or consumers of culture, then it's all about the color pie. Like, check out the philosophy of this game, because it's got some really neat philosophy. Anyone who plays D&D and loves the alignment system, that's
true.
a fair step toward the color pie, right?
Yeah.
In this case, it was a little bit of both, because I had two completely different people who wanted to get involved, so I had to kind of take the balanced approach. And what I ended up doing was creating simple decks. I ended up making 40 card rather than 60 card decks of commons and uncommons, one in each of the colors, and saying, here, check these out. Mm-hmm. And then Tams and I went over to their place for dinner and taught them how to play. And
we chose Theros because it's a great set.
Because it's what we have a lot of.
Well, that too. But to be fair, it's a great set for this kind of thing, because it's relatively balanced in the commons and uncommons.
If you don't have a lot of extra core set lying around, then yeah, I would choose Theros, because it's fairly simple to get the key mechanics, mm-hmm. and it's very resonant. Like, Greek mythology is something that most people at least have a passing familiarity with. Mm-hmm. So I can say, here, check out these cards. They look really cool.
So were these block or just Theros?
The initial decks are just simply Theros. Mm-hmm. I went in... Actually, I have the deck lists
and
here.
You'll be posting them, won't you?
I will. I'm going to write a little article about them for the website, so you can go and check them out.
Yes, if you want the detailed list.
But basically, I looked at just Theros because I didn't want to... I wanted to limit myself. I wanted to say, okay, you only have so much time. You only have so many materials to look at. What can you do? Mm-hmm. And thankfully, when you go through and take just a bunch of commons and a few uncommons in each of the colors, you can make a 40-card deck.
Sure.
So, the white one, for instance, I have 2 Yoke Docs, 2 Hopeful Eidolon, 4 Leonin Snarecaster, and this was the first deck I built, so I probably wouldn't have 4 of something in later iterations.
Sure.
4 Wingsteed Rider, 2 Observant Alcedes, and 2 Ephara's Wardens for the creatures. And then 2 Chosen by Heliod, 2 Battlewise Valor, 2 Divine Verdict, and 1 God's Willing. And it basically looks like a really sweet draft deck.
Right.
You know? It's simple. There's a lot of repetition, so you don't have too many new things to get overwhelmed with. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and the point of the different decks was to make sure that in 1v1, each deck had something that the other could counter it with. Like, if we had flyers...
each could deal with the other.
Yeah, but what we found out in multiplayer is that mono black is just badass.
So in multiplayer... Thanks to the
Gary.
2 Grey Merchant of Asphodel.
You fool.
Yeah.
And I got the black deck. It was amazing.
They were meant to be 1v1. And they were meant to showcase this is what each of the colors do.
Like, right, and black definitely has a devotion theme.
Yeah.
Even at common.
Yeah. White has the most creatures of any of the decks. The black one had, I think, the best removal. Yeah, Pharika's Cure, a couple of Read the Bones, 2 Lash of the Whip, and a Sip of Hemlock. Plus, like, Death Touch, Baleful Eidolons. Mm-hmm. Green had the biggest creatures.
Of course.
Was running 3 Evnessian Asp. But that was the biggest thing,
yeah.
Right? Like, just staying at common and uncommon. And we played these decks several times, and they're sweet. Like, just commons, just having combat in Magic is a fun experience.
Yeah, especially if you're just learning the game, because it keeps things simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So we'll definitely post the list so that if anybody wants to do this. Mm-hmm. But after we do this, we also have done the...
Well, after you did this, they then iterated on your, your initial invention.
We left the decks with them, so yeah.
So yeah, this is Mark Rosewater's thing about inviting new people to play Magic. build decks, show them the decks, and then give them the decks. And I'm like, yes, I will give them the decks. Because...
Which is the other reason they were commons and uncommons?
Yep.
Well, yeah. And I have, like, I don't know, 3 boxes full of Theros block that's just laying around. So it wasn't a hardship to give up. Actually, it was more difficult leaving the sleeves. But I also sleeved up each of the decks in different colors so that they were easily recognizable in the box. Like, oh, this is the blue deck. It's in blue sleeves. They were just Ultra Pro, like, random sleeves.
Yes, they have a massive sleeve collection here.
Yeah.
We do.
We have lots of stuff. But I left the decks with them, and they were playing with them. And then they banned black from being played for a little bit and put it in the corner to shun it. But then they decided to shuffle up 2 of the decks together and play 2-color decks.
Whilst still in the multicolored sleeves.
Yeah, well, I mean, new players, whatever. Yeah. Like
they came up with an honor system of hiding which were your lands, and because then your opponent could identify if you were color flooded or something.
Well, one of the things that they came up with too was it's sort of strategic to see, especially in Theros where there's scry. You know, scry this island is on top. I have 7 white cards on top of the deck. I think I'll just bottom this.
Yeah.
You know? Which is fine because they both had that.
Yes.
So it's not like there was one-sided information going on. But I think that sounds like a pretty sweet way to play.
Yeah, they said they really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And then eventually they got to the point where they split the decks because there were 2 ofs, a lot of the stuff. Into 2 piles, and then whatever there were an odd number of, they left out, and then they shuffled up 5-color piles and just I'm like, that sounds amazing. Like, leave it to new players to do something completely wild and crazy that remind me how much fun Magic can be on a base level.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, my suggestion to Step was next time you go over to hang out, you should take a single pack or 2 packs, so, you know, 1 for each of you of whatever set, and introduce Pack Wars.
Oh, it's going to be Amonkhet.
Yeah, introduce Pack Wars, because that is also a really... I remember when I was just coming back to Magic, it was something I looked forward to all the time, because first of all, opening a pack is like opening a Christmas present.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get, and it's just so exciting. And getting to see new cards and new mechanics and having to read and how does this interact with this card that it isn't meant to interact with.
So for our
It's a good
listeners,
learning.
how do Step and Tams do Pack Wars? What are your official house rules?
Fair enough.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we do Pack Wars the way we learned them first from watching Loading Ready Run do it, which is you take a pack, you toss the token in the land, you shuffle up 3 of each land with the pack, and that is your deck. And you just play.
And there's no mulligans in Pack Wars, James, unless you're a lame-o.
Yeah,
It's true.
so it ends up having a equal split, 50% land, 50% cards, basically, right?
Yeah, so it's land heavy, obviously.
Yes.
But
For both players.
in most sets, 3 of a land is enough to cast anything. Like, there are a few cards in history that have had, like, green, 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 or black,
Thysis.
black. I think 5 black is the...
And then you're sad.
Oh, well, yeah, that's for actually an Obliterator.
Yeah.
Or for 4, yeah.
So, I mean, sometimes you just can't cast it, oh well, but in most packs you're fine. There are other ways to play Pack Wars, like without land at all. Just play what you draw, which is also fine. But to me, part of Magic is having mana and to pay for things. So it's essential for me. But it can be a lot of fun no matter which way you play it.
Now, you are not... Like, you're not an old-time Magic player, Laura.
That is true.
You've only been playing for 2 years?
Yep.
So, how did you get in? We've probably discussed this a little bit, but it bears reiterating, I think, for people who are looking to get in.
Yeah, so I have mentioned that I essentially showed up and said, I've played a bit online. How do I get into playing in paper? I actually showed up to one of the more serious magic shops in town. They're downtown, so I was just like, yeah, they seem pretty big. I'm sure they'll know. And I asked, and they said, you should check out this other store, because it's definitely for more casual players. So I did that, and then he was like,
We're so glad you did.
oh yeah. So the shop owner, he was like, okay, well, why don't you just try purchasing one of the standard intro packs, like the dragons. It was the red green one, and show up to standard on Sunday. And I was like, okay. So I did, and then he was like, and then why don't you come out to Friday for draft? And I did, and so that one was definitely more overwhelming, because obviously there's like choice and strategy involved and stuff.
Yep.
But he was not drafting, so with the permission of the other players, he gave me a bit of advice as I was picking cards and things like that.
I remember that.
Me too.
Unfortunately, he couldn't play the deck for me, and since it was a very convoluted blue-black exploit graveyard deck, which is probably not what you want for your first run at any type of draft deck.
Was that his influence or yours?
Well, his.
Okay.
I mean, it was just picking the best card. That was the deck that my seat was meant to draft.
All right, fair enough.
So, it was complicated, but it was fun enough that I was like, okay, sure, I'll come back out. And, it gets a lot easier after you've drafted the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're kind of over the stress and the I don't know what I'm doing type of things, and then you're just like, oh, well, I don't know what I'm doing, but I imagine I can learn and get better.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty much how I did it. I kept coming out to standard just with the pre-built deck a couple of times. I was fortunate enough to have a couple of the kind people who are at the standard. They donated some upgrades, basically. They were like, because it has a bunch of just bulk rares and uncommons and commons and stuff like that. So they're like, oh, well, I happen to have, a third copy of this particular dragon, which is much better than this other card that's in your deck, so you can just have it 'cause it's 20 cents.
Right.
So I got a couple of free upgrades that way, basically, but then I just bought right into the super cheap blue-white heroic deck for standard. And then I just kept coming to draft and standard, and then I bought one of the pre-constructed commander decks. And then I showed up to commander a couple of times. I got the mono green elf deck from 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I haven't played that one.
It can get out of hand pretty quickly. You can just swarm the board with elves.
Sweet.
Unfortunately, there is not a Craterhoof involved in the deck, unless you add one yourself.
You can
because
always do that.
that's the finisher the deck deserves.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's pretty much how I kind of got into it. I didn't really play casual or kitchen table or pack wars or anything like that until I got to know people. It was mostly just in-store events and playing a bit of duels until I got sick of how the stack doesn't work in it.
Yeah. Duels is one of those things that people say you should start with duels and try it, but then it causes all sorts of problems when you actually go to the shop and learn how to play paper Magic.
Yeah, so I have to say maybe my biggest recommendation, and probably how I learned the most before I even came out to play very much, was just watching Spell Slingers on Geek and Sundry. It was run by Day 9, who would get, some of his friends out who were usually big in the community in some way. And they would just... They would spin the Lazy Susan to find out what deck they were playing if they didn't feel like choosing one for that week. And then they were just given decks and they played them. And it's really a show for beginners because they pause and they explain things and they show the order. And it's like even the first couple episodes, they just assume you know nothing about Magic. And then as the series progresses, it gets, more and more, it just assumes that you've watched the first couple episodes so you have that foundation to build on.
Right.
So it's just an entertaining and very light-hearted way of watching some people sit around the table playing fun, casual, Magic.
And that's on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
They can find that when you search.
That's the other thing that I usually do when, after teaching people how to play just the first couple of games, if I know that they like YouTube, I usually then send them the first episode of the Friday night series.
Okay, so I've been sitting here waiting while you guys are talking because what I wanted to say is that what really drew me hardcore back into playing was watching Friday nights, was getting sucked back into the the fun, and it's so funny, and wanting to know the references.
And they don't actually play that much magic.
No.
No, not at all.
It's funny enough that you want to understand the references, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good gateway.
Well, not only that, but it just gives you that feeling of Magic community.
Yeah.
You know, you go, oh, you know, if I go out and play, I'll get friends who understand the references that I'm making and who are able to make jokes and who will invite me out for Magic and stuff like that. And it's totally true if that's what you want to get out of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next step, I think, for these friends, I'm actually thinking about digging into my Born of the Gods and grabbing 5 cards of each color, maybe 4 commons and an uncommon, and
suggesting
saying,
they tool around with the decks.
Here's some boosters.
That's good.
To add to those, just 40 card random decks.
Yeah, and make them substitute them out, or decide for themselves if they want to try 41 or 45, or...
Yeah, I'll just take the cards over and be like, here, if you want to, make some changes, go ahead. And, we'll see. Anything else we want to talk about?
Yeah, I think I've gotten at what I wanted to get at.
Cool. So, I guess that's our show for today, folks.
Sounds like it.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week with a, at this point, undisclosed topic.
That is true. Undisclosed, undecided, one or the other.
But, we love talking to you for 56 minutes every week.
Approximately.
So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.